Well, welcome everybody to our little orientation meeting of the 2024 version of the Winter Bird Challenge that Golden Eagle is hosting. I think I can't remember now if this is the fourth or the fifth year that we've done this. So what we're going to do this evening is kind of go over the categories and the rules associated with each category. Carter is going to cover how to create a trip report and send the link so that we can keep track of progress. We're going to talk about the field trips that will be part of it. They're going to be on, I think it's on every Saturday of January. And we'll have a couple of Zoom meetings, although I have to look up the dates real quick because I don't remember off the top of my head. So anyway, to get started on the categories and kind of the rules of the game, as usual, we're doing a little bit of tweaking again this year, just to hopefully make it a little more interesting. The main categories remain general, photography, and audio. And that's just the most species of each. We do not judge the photos on their quality, just as long as it's identifiable. Same thing with the audio, as long as we can tell there's a bird there. And we don't judge your identification skills. We take you at your word for the species that you're seeing. So those are the three categories that we've had the entire time we've done the Winter Bird Challenge. Last year, we added two new categories that seemed to be fairly popular. One of them was the Weekend Warrior. This is aimed at people who are working and can't go out every day. So it's the most birds seen on any 10 days of the month of your choosing. And then we added also the backyard category for the people that don't care to get out into the snow. And this year we did a little bit of tweaking with that one because some people may not have really good backyards. Like my backyard would be very depressing to try to enter into this contest. So if you're not happy with what you have available in your backyard, or if you're in a situation where you don't really have a backyard, then you can adopt a park or similar kind of setting for the duration of the contest. You won't be able to change during the contest, but at least you can maybe go to some place that you feel is birdier than what you have available right at your place. So those are our 5 categories that we have: photography, audio recording, general, weekend warrior, and backyard. So as part of the Winter Bird Challenge, to help people, particularly people who are relatively new to birding and don't really know where to find things, we're going to have 4 field trips, and we'll cover those in a minute. In order to run the tallies and keep those up to date, we're asking that everybody creates a trip report, and then they send the link to myself and to Carter. We don't want you to share the trip report with us because we don't need these things going into our accounts. But Carter's going to go over how to set up the trip report, how to share the link, and any other sorts of eBird type questions that people typically have. So Carter?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Let me share my screen here. Go over here. All right, so here I am on the eBird homepage. So first, I'm just going to walk through how to make a trip report, and then I'll get into some of the other general eBird tasks. And so the fastest way I think to get to your trip reports is to go to your My eBird. So click on this, and then my internet's being a little slow, but once it loads, you can go over here to the left on this dark blue tab. You can go to Manage My and go to Trip Reports. So you can see all the trip reports that you have here. Looks like I need to join the one for the CBC this weekend. But after you go to My Trip Reports, you can hit the green button to create a new trip report. And so you can give it a name. So for this, we can say Golden Eagle Audubon Society Winter Bird Challenge 2024. And so this name can be anything. I think it would be easiest for us if it had at least Winter Bird Challenge in there. But the name doesn't matter so much. You can name it whatever works for you, and then you can change the dates. So you can go, January 1st of 2024 to January, go all the way forward, January 31st of 2024. And so it'll automatically add all the checklists that you submit between the date and times that you set. And so then you can go to link only to set it up so that the only people that can see the trip report are the people with the links. So this way it won't be a public trip report unless that's something that you want it to be. And so that's the easiest way. If you set it to limited, then the only people that can view it are people that are on the trip report. So it's sometimes it seems like, oh, I want it to be limited to just people that are looking at it, but that really just limits it to the people that are on the trip report. So we're going to want to go to link only. So then we can create a trip report. And it automatically, so right now it has 0 checklists, but as we make checklists, as you create them and submit them, they'll pop up here. And so I can go back to my trip reports to show you what a completed trip report looks like. Okay, wants to be tricky. I'll just save and view. And then, yeah, so we have this. You can share it after you do that. And so you can, yeah, so you go to share and then it'll pop up right away with your eBird link here. So you just want to copy this and then you can send that to Louisa and I, and we'll take it from there. So you just have to submit checklists and then we will check all the trip reports periodically. I think I'm going to aim to try and check them 10 times throughout the month. So every 3 days, we'll make sure to update them every week, but I think my goal is going to be to update them about every 3 to 4 days throughout the month. And so we will use that to update the standings. And that really is all you have to do on the trip report side of it. Just to cover some other general eBird stuff, I'm going to go over how to add media to checklists for people who maybe haven't done that before. So if you go to any of your checklists, so here I have a checklist from this weekend's Christmas bird count. I stopped at Julius Kleiner Park to get the Eurasian widgeon that's been there. And so once you go to a checklist and you want to add media, so whether that's photos or it's audio for whatever category you're in, you can go to add media. It's the green button right here. And then it'll show you all the different species. So I'm going to go to Eurasian widgeon, add media, desktop. And so I'll find the folder that I have. So I have it set up here for bird challenge example. Select whatever photo you want to add it there. And then it'll take a moment to load and it'll say uploading. And once it changes to saved, so here we have it as saved, you can click done. And so you can add as many, there are limits to how many photos or audio files you can add to anyone's observation. But it's usually more than enough. I can't imagine we'd run into any problems with not having enough space. So you can add your photos and it works the same with adding audio files. And then you can add certain things here, like you can rate your photo, you can add notes, you can add details about the age, or the important thing, especially if you have an audio file, you can go here to additional species and you can add whatever other species are in the photo or audio. So for this, I'll say American widgeon, add that, and then you can just wait for it to save and click done. And then it's just on your checklist. And so when you add that to the checklist, we'll go through and that'll factor in for the photo categories and audio categories. And so we can go through and look at that on your trip reports as well. If anybody has more general questions about eBird, if they haven't used eBird before and you just want to know how to make a checklist, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my email here at the end or reach out to Louisa. But the general rules, you can do it on the app on your phone, which is pretty easy. It kind of walks you right through it. Or if you prefer to just take notes while you're out in the field and then go home and make them, you can do it on the website as well using the submit here, and then it'll walk you through asking you where and when you birded. But I think for the most part, people should be pretty familiar with that process. So yeah, the main thing that you guys have to worry about really is creating your trip reports and sending the links to Louisa and I, and then just submitting your checklist for whenever you go out birding. And for those of you that are doing Weekend Warrior Challenge, as long as you tell us what days that you've chosen. So if you have a checklist that wasn't from that day, one of your days, we won't count that. So just make sure that you let us know what 10 days you're choosing. as you go along, and we'll factor that in. So really, once you get started, it should be pretty easy. You won't have to worry about your trip report. You can just submit your checklists and we'll take it from there. Does anybody have any questions about that at the moment before we move on to some of the other stuff we're going to cover this evening?
And also, just so you know, if you can submit multiple trip reports on the same day, even for weekend warriors. So like if you go like 3 or 4 places on the one day, all of those lists count for that day.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
This is Norm issue.
you're kind of breaking, Norm.
Hello?
Yeah.
I just didn't understand how the link gets to Golden Eagle from the trip report.
Oh yeah. So here on my screen, once you create your trip report, you can go to share, and then it'll show you the link right here, and you can just click copy, and then you can email that trip report to either Louisa or I, or both of us preferably.
So
and
that will come up
email it.
automatically.
Yeah. So once you create your trip report, on your
Okay.
trip report page, there's a share button, and once you click the share button,
All right. Okay,
this will pop up.
I get it. Thank you. Okay.
So basically you copy that, you copy that, and you paste that link in an email to both of you. Is that right?
You can
Yes.
do
Yes.
that, or the other way you can do it is up at the top in the address bar. You see where it says ebird.org/trip report/ and there's a number there. You could also copy that link and send it to us
In an email.
in an email. Yes.
All right. I think we'll need both your email addresses then.
Yes.
We'll put all of this in writing. And once everybody has registered, we'll put it all in writing. So that you can keep referring back to it with Carter and Louisa's emails in there for sure.
Yeah, and if any of you guys have questions on any of this stuff or other stuff related to the Winter Bird Challenge, you can feel free to email us about that. We'll do our best to answer any other questions that you have as you go through this process at the new year.
Okay. And then they want to touch on the use of Merlin as part of the Winter Bird Challenge. Using Merlin is fine for helping you to identify birds. For instance, I have hearing loss and I cannot hear golden crowned kinglets, for example. They're too high for me. So I use Merlin to let me know that they're there. But I usually don't count them on my eBird list unless I can actually find them and see them as well. But there are certain birds that you will only hear, like rails. If you come across a Virginia rail in your journeys, or a Sora, odds are you are only going to hear them, and that's fine. And you can use Merlin to help you identify the birds. Just be aware that Merlin isn't 100%. And it does have problems with Bewick's wrens because they have such a wide repertoire of songs and calls. Be aware of that. Okay. So along with having the field trips, and we'll cover those in just a minute because we want to spend a little bit of time on them, we are going to have 2 social Zoom meetings just to kind of for people to share stories and whatnot. The first one will be on January 9th and the second one on January 25th. And those are also going to be at 7 o'clock in the evening, scheduled for about an hour. They'll go as long as people are interested in that. And mark your calendars too for the after party on February 3rd. And at that party, that's when we will announce the winners, hand out the prizes, share more stories, have some pizza, and hopefully generally have a good time. So let's go ahead and talk about the field trips that we're going to have.
Yeah, let me pull up. I have just a couple slides to have in the background as we talk about these to help
Okay,
have the dates and information up there. So is that working? Is that showing just the,
yes.
okay, cool.
So each Saturday, 20, oh, I'm looking at the wrong month. Each Saturday, we will have a field trip. I just have to look on my calendar as to which one is exactly when.
Yeah, and I have additional slides after this that'll go into
Oh,
what
okay.
exactly field
Yeah.
trips are on each date.
Okay,
Um,
yeah. The main one to remember is that January 27th at 3 p.m. to dusk. That is the field trip down to Ted Trueblood with the primary goal of helping people get short-eared owls. They usually show up about that time of year, and they're often quite visible on that entrance road into the Ted Trueblood Wildlife Management Area. And they usually show up right around dusk.
Yep.
So, but it takes about an hour, a little longer maybe to get there. So that's where we're meeting at 3 p.m. And we should
And
get there
so-
4-ish.
and the other 3 field trips are on the Saturdays before that, and they're all from 1 to 3. And for those field trips, we will meet on site. And so the first one on January 6th is going to be to Wilson Springs Ponds. I think Louisa, you're gonna talk a little
Yeah.
bit about this one.
Yeah, Wilson Springs Ponds is out here at Nampa. It's a fishing game management area that it's kind of attached to their hatchery. We usually go here. This is a really good place to get a good variety of ducks. One of the nice things about Wilson Springs Ponds is that the water in the main ponds does not freeze. And so that's what attracts a lot of the ducks there. So and there's always a chance for picking up a few songbirds. If we're really lucky, you might get black crowned night heron, but that's not a given. They're very much hit and miss. And occasionally there's been a herring gull out there. But this is really all about getting ducks.
Yep. And then the weekend after that, we will have a field trip to Catherine Albertson Park. So Catherine Albertson, every winter hosts a pretty wide variety of birds. There's a number of ponds. There's kind of a diversity of different tree types, and so there's a lot of different birds that congregate at Catherine Albertson. Some of the things that I think we'll probably be targeting when we're there are birds like varied thrush, which most winters tend to hang out there, and are kind of one of the only places in this area that you can find them. But other birds, we think about right now, there are a couple of white-throated sparrows and purple finches, which if those stick around, we might look for those. But yeah, other things like wood duck, which we'll probably get at Wilson Springs Ponds, but can be a good place to find kinglets and yellow-rumped warblers and song sparrows, sometimes some white-crowned sparrows. And so it's just a good variety of birds, sometimes things like western screech owl. And so there's any number of species that we could find there. And so it should be a really great field trip to kind of scattershot and get some good diversity of species.
And then our next
then
trip
we'll-
on January 20th, this is to Canyon Hill Cemetery. This is in Caldwell. We'll be meeting on site. A lot of people don't realize that cemeteries are really good places to bird. This is really good for a lot of migratory songbirds. Like we often get both the kinglets, black-capped chickadee. Haven't had a mountain chickadee there yet, but that's always possible. They usually have red crossbills. This year there are pine grosbeaks there. Hopefully they will continue to stick around. There were pygmy nuthatches earlier, but I haven't seen a report of them in a while. And there's a chance for a Steller's jay. There's been one hanging out in the general area. Sometimes it's in the neighborhoods, sometimes it's close to the cemetery. And then there's often Merlin hanging out there. And sometimes there's a saw-whet owl. Haven't heard about one being found yet this year, but if it pops up, then that will be one of our targets to try to find there. It's another really birdie place. Mostly there about songbirds.
Yeah, and then our last field trip, like Louisa talked about earlier, is going to be Ted Trueblood WMA, which is down near Grandview, south of Boise. And so yeah, for this one, we're gonna meet at the Boise Factory Outlets, which is the outlet mall kind of near Federal Way and Gowan Road. So we'll meet in front of the liquor store there, and then we'll all drive down to Ted Trueblood together, with the hope that we'll get short-eared owl. But Ted Trueblood can also be a really productive place for birds like sparrows. So kind of the usual suspects of juncos and white crowned sparrows, but also sometimes swamp sparrow can be found, which are kind of a tricky bird for this area, but can be tough to find at times. So we'll have to see. And then just other birds in general can be a good spot for northern harriers, waterfowl, marsh wren. And so there should just be a good scatter shot of birds. In some years, on the way down to Ted Trueblood, there have been burrowing owls that have hung out over the winter. I don't know if there's been any reports of that this year, but if there are, that's something that we will look for on our way down there. And so yeah, this should be a good opportunity to look for owls, especially short-eared owl, along with some variety species that some of which we might see elsewhere, some of which we might not, like swamp sparrow or other waterfowl.
Yeah, and there have been burrowing owls seen along the Grandview Highway. There's a couple places we can pull off and check for them. We'd probably check for them on the way to Ted Trueblood, because once we get to once the short-eared owls show up, by the time we head back, it's going to be too dark to see any burrowing owls.
Yeah.
And it's always worth paying attention on the way down, because things like ferruginous hawks and golden eagles and rough-legged hawks have been seen along Simcoe Road as well.
Yep.
And a correction, the after party is February 4th, not February 3rd, and it starts at 5 o'clock. So those are our field trips. Are there any questions about those? And these field trips are restricted to the participants in the Winter Bird Challenge.
And we will create an Eventbrite, so you will be asked to register for them. Everybody that will go to everybody who goes through the registration process, and we'll send you the links to those field trips. And you have the best field trip leaders you're ever going to get.
Hey, at this point, I think we're ready to open it up for any other questions that people might have, or is there something I'm forgetting to cover?
We want more people.
Yeah, we want more people, so talk it up with your friends.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I said I only see 7 participants on this. Is that all that's participating in amongst the 5 categories?
Oh, last I knew, we had
So,
10 people signed up.
I think it was, yeah, either 10 or 11 was the last that I saw. But yeah, definitely hoping for more people to register in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, if there's any birders that that have participated in the past, or birders that you think might be interested, yeah, let them know. It should be a good opportunity to either have an excuse to get out and bird, or get a crash course in winter birding around Southwest Idaho and Idaho in general.
Yeah, one of the purpose of the socials is to let people know where to find some of the birds that are popping up. We always get vagrants in the wintertime that may pop up here and there, and to let people know where to go look for them, as well as just to people to share how it's going with them.
Louisa, I know you said you were considering canceling the audio one because you lack of participation. Did anyone besides me sign up for that?
Oh, I think we have a second person signed up for the audio category.
Okay.
Is that right, Carter? You knew somebody else that signed up?
I think Kent is the only one that I know of at this point. But yeah, that's another thing that hopefully we can get somebody else to register for that category, because I think it'd be great to have all the categories running. But we we'll definitely update people about what categories might have to be dropped if we don't get enough people registered. But definitely gonna have the general, the backyard, the photo, and so hopefully we'll get more registrants for the other two categories. But I think as of right now, I believe you're the only person I know of that's registered for the audio category, Ken.
Okay, yeah, and last I knew, nobody had signed up for Weekend Warrior.
Yeah.
So we're still hoping for more people between now and January 1st.
Any other questions?
Megan or Pauline? Well, hopefully we didn't scare you guys away. Oh, here Megan's in a chat. Said Lily Montague will sign up. Megan will also, but will be deploying at the end of January. Okay. Yeah, and like Liz is saying in hers, you don't have to be an expert birder. That's one of the reasons we have the field trips, is to help people out that are not expert birders, help them figure out what things are. And you have a question about backyard versus general. Go ahead, Megan.
Hi, this is Megan. So are backyard and general mutually exclusive? One can do both, or?
Theoretically, you could do all the categories if you were so inclined, although there's really not much point maybe in overlapping backyard and weekend warrior with general, but that's up to you. The idea behind general is it's open to the entire state. It's a lot of people, we have a lot of retirees who participate, and so they're able to do quite a bit of traveling. And it wasn't really fair to the people that were working and could not, or the people that couldn't really get out very far to bird because of whatever their circumstances are. So for instance, I know we have a one participant who signed up who's wheelchair bound, and she just doesn't do well in the cold. So she birds her backyard.
So
so
the field trips are meant predominantly for the general category?
General photography, audio, weekend warrior. They're really not going to be of much help with backyard,
Oh, okay,
except for helping you learn to identify maybe some birds.
Yeah,
okay.
and so
Yeah.
you could register for both backyard and general, and then you could compete to see how many birds you can get in your yard in addition to all the birds that you find elsewhere. But yeah, you can register for both, or you can register for one. But yeah, you can really register for any combination of the categories.
Yeah,
All right.
and I forgot to mention in the backyard it's not necessarily just birds that are actually in your backyard, but birds that you see from your backyard. So if you have a flock of geese flying overhead, you can count them. Or if you see in your neighbor's tree that they've got a brown creeper, you can count that from your backyard. So it's just whatever you can see in or from your backyard.
All right, thank you.
A lot of people brought their cameras on the field trips, and we're taking photos and helping each other take photos and stuff too. So you can get a little help if you are trying to improve your bird photography skills as well. And we provide scopes if scopes are needed for those field trips too. Oh, here comes somebody else.
Yeah, looks like we have a late joiner. So welcome, David. We've covered most of the topics now, but we are recording this session so you can view it later. Do you have any questions off the top of your head about the Winterbird Challenge?
David, you could unmute yourself if you came with questions in mind from what you'd already learned. This is a good time to bring them up. Pretty much everybody else has asked their questions. We're glad to have you here. Are you signed up already, David? You have to take yourself off mute if, or put it in the chat. Or maybe you didn't mean to come to the Golden Eagle Audubon Winter Bird Challenge Zoom.
There
I'm
we
gonna
go.
stop. Oh, there you
Now
are.
I figured
There
it
you
out.
go.
Is this an organized event, and are there fees or a checklist, or how does this work?
Okay, this is an organized event. There are fees because it also functions as a fundraiser for Golden Eagle.
Okay,
We have 5 categories that you can register for. General, which is birding anywhere in the state of Idaho. Photography, taking photos of birds and posting them in your checklist. Audio, making audio recordings and posting them. For the people that work, we have a category called Weekend Warrior, which is any 10 days in the month. And you can submit multiple checklists on the days that you go out birding. And then we have Backyard, where if you don't necessarily want to get out in the cold and whatnot and bird, it's whatever birds you see in and from your backyard.
okay. All right. Where do I sign up, and how? And how long do I have to sign up?
The contest starts January 1st. It runs the entire month of January. If you go to the Golden Eagle website, let me share my screen if I can here, and I'll show you the website.
Is that the goldeneagleaudubon.org?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I see that.
There's the link in the chat.
Okay, I've got that.
Yeah, anyway, and you go to explore, the explore button, and down at the bottom it says Winter Bird Challenge. And you scroll down in that page, and then there's a place to register, and it has what the different categories cost. And you can register for more than one category if you're so inclined.
Okay, and where would I see the different categories? Is that under the, well,
It says enter in one or more categories: general, photography, audio, backyard, and weekend warrior. And when you register, then you pick which categories that you want to register for.
okay, all right. That sounds pretty simple. Yeah, unfortunately, I missed the Christmas bird count. I get informed a little bit too late for it.
Oh, well, there's time to participate in this, and
Okay,
we welcome everybody. We have 4 field trips scheduled, 4 field trips scheduled